Greetings, YouTubers. There's 3 things I want to talk about. Number 1, people who put profiles together on YouTube that are false. Channels that have no content and are put there under false names. I also want to address some criticisms of a video I made about David Jeremiah. And number 3, I'm going to talk about the document titled Evangelicals and Catholics Together. Let's start with the phony profile thing. The reason I'm addressing this is because somebody brought some charges against me regarding the David Jeremiah video. I looked at this person's YouTube channel and there was no content, and they used the name Tony Stark. I didn't really understand the significance of Tony Stark, but I knew that this person was not on the up and up because they're not out in the open. Listen, folks, I'm out in the open. My name is on everything I do. There's a difference. I know the difference. I don't hide behind the veil of the internet. Everybody knows that. Anyway, this guy calling himself Tony Stark produces nothing as an empty channel. My wife looked at it and said, "Do you know who Tony Stark is?" I said, "No, I don't." And she said, "Well, that's a comic book hero. That's Iron Man." I thought, oh, very interesting. I have a guy criticizing me using a false representation of himself. He's deceiving us, deceiving me, pretending to be a comic book hero. Now, maybe his name is Tony Stark. He has yet to come forward and say, "Yes, that is my name," and prove it. And he has yet to put up any content. And so it is suspicious. This Tony Stark said, "Well, I can't find any evidence that David Jeremiah signed Evangelicals and Catholics together." I thought about it and decided to look up my sources. Lo and behold, I couldn't find a primary source. Yet I remember 2 years ago when I made that video, I had a primary source. I'm certain of it. Now I could be mistaken. After more than 300 videos and 18 books, 13 published, I acknowledge that I've made some mistakes, but I go back and correct them. Okay, I don't have a problem making corrections. I don't have a problem with people making mistakes. I have a problem with people who misrepresent themselves, who pretend to be something other than who they are. That I have a problem with. So this Tony Stark, if he's not actually Tony Stark but a comic book character, I would say this type of person has no credibility with me and should have no credibility with anybody, because people who want to be treated credibly put themselves out front. They don't hide behind the internet. They're willing to stand up and take responsibility for their statements. Anybody who knows me, knows the volume of work that I produced, knows that I'm not hiding and that I withstand correction and will make corrections. But here's the interesting thing. I think he had a point, and so I decided to look into it. All I could find were inferential sources and blogs. I provided that information to this comic book hero, and he said, well, those are not primary sources. And I would have to agree they're not. But here's one of the circumstantial sources that really causes me to be suspicious. First of all, David Jeremiah signed a statement of faith that was published in Christianity Today. Christianity Today published an article, I believe in 1999. It was an article in response to the negativity around those people who signed Evangelicals and Catholics together. And I have to question, why did David Jeremiah feel he had to distance himself from ECT if he hadn't signed it? Yet his name is published in that article in Christianity Today, so it's suspicious. Now, the other thing I know for a fact, ECT has been modified a few times, and also names have appeared and disappeared from ECT. Was David Jeremiah's one of those names? I don't know. I can't verify it. But I'll tell you one thing for certain. If I'm wrong, and David didn't sign ECT, and somebody can provide me a statement or something from David Jeremiah confirming that, I'll most certainly retract that. The other thing my critic and comic book character, for all I know, stated was that David Jeremiah did not help pen ECT. Now, I'd stated in the video that David Jeremiah helped pen ECT. On that count, I think he might be right. I cannot find my sources for that. But I'm still convinced he signed ECT. And removed himself from it early in the program. As a matter of fact, trying to find a legitimate list of all the signatories is almost impossible because there are many, not just the ones you find posted on Wikipedia or wherever, or some official ECT website or something like that. There were many signatories, and it's very possible that David Jeremiah was one of them and chose to distance himself from it and perhaps have his name removed. You have to remember, this document was penned in 1994, and then it was revised a little bit later, and there were signatories coming on board and signatories having their names removed. So we don't really know. But I'll tell you something else. If David wasn't a signatory of ECT, it doesn't change the fact that he is cozied up very snugly to the papists. And I think I'll save that for another video, but anything to do with TBN is papist friendly. And David Jeremiah helps raise money for Trinity Broadcasting. He has cozied up to scum like the Crouches for years. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So if he didn't sign ECT, it doesn't really change anything. But also, I want to say, if this Tony Stark is actually Tony Stark, if that's his real name, then he needs to prove that. And he needs to put some content on his YouTube site. And he needs to show his face. He needs to come out of the dark. And if he's not willing to do that, I don't think we should give him the time of day. And I'm certainly not going to give him the time of day. But I've gone this far because I think his point was valid. Now, he made some other statements in a very long communication. I really don't like to get novels on my comments section. And really what he had to say only would have taken a few sentences. And so this is the nature of people who put fake profiles on YouTube. They use it as a platform to rampage through YouTube channels and throw all kinds of things at the wall and then scamper away. But I want to warn you people about phony profiles, people with an agenda. Usually if there's a phony profile, it's somebody looking for a fight. They go through YouTube and look for things to scrap about. Tony Stark, a comic book hero. Iron Man, no content. Sounds a bit fishy to me. What do you think? God bless all you Bereans out there. God bless my Patreon subscribers.